Plotinus. Maxims of Pagan Wisdom. It is for the gods to come to me, not for me to go to them. This reply given by Plotinus to Aemilius, who invited him to approach the gods with the prescribed rituals, reflects the spirit of the solar path, the surpassing of the religious attitude, the transcendent dignity of the man in possession of wisdom, whom Plotinus terms the spodios. His superiority not only to the natural world, but also to the divine world. All these are affirmed here. It is a matter of an inner attitude that is fundamental for practice. One must create a quality in oneself by which the supersensible powers, the gods, are constrained to come, like women attracted by man. This quality is summarized in one verb, which means nothing and yet means everything. To be. Be. Consist. Make yourself a center. Through ascesis, through purification, through what Plotinus himself will explain. You have heard tell of the dry way. This is an aspect of it. Separate yourself from those who are attracted to the invisible worlds through vague neediness, soulful yearning, and confused visions. More non-beings than beings, surely. You must make yourself like the gods, not like good men. The end is not to be sinless, but to be a god. These maxims cleanly separate the initiate's path from the path of man. The virtue of man in the final analysis is a matter of indifference, the image of an image, as Plotinus says. Morality has nothing to do with initiation. Initiation is a radical transformation from one state of existence into another state of existence. A god is not a moral example, it is an other being. The good man does not cease to be man through being good. In every time and place that understands what initiation means, the idea has always been the same. Thus, in Hermetism, our work is the conversion and the changing of one being into another being, of one thing into another thing, of weakness into strength, of corporeity into spirituality. Sinners can also draw water from the rivers. The giver does not know what he is giving, but simply gives. How does man stand with respect to the all? As a part? No. As a whole that belongs to itself. Lacking unity, things are deprived of being. The more unity, the more being they possess. Every being is itself by belonging to itself, and belonging to itself, it concentrates itself. As unity, it possesses itself and has all the grandeur, all the beauty. Therefore, do not run and flee from yourself indefinitely. Everything within is now gathered into its unity. The essential element for the condition of being is unity. Unify yourself. Be one. This bundle of energies, this horde of beings, sensations and tendencies that make up you, bend them beneath a single law, a single will, a single thought. Organize yourself. Bend your soul. Use it in every way. Take it to every crossroads until it is inert, incapable of its own movement, dead to every instinctive irrationality, just as a perfectly trained horse, when ordered, goes to right or left, stops or leaps ahead. So your soul must be to you a thing that you hold in your fist, unchained. You will be one. Being one, you are, and it belongs to you. Belonging to you, you will possess grandeur. Ancient classical wisdom distinguishes two symbolic regions, the lower, of things that flee, the upper, of things that are. What flow or flee are the things that cannot attain the realization and perfect possession of their own nature. The other things are, they have transcended this life, which is mixed with death and is a ceaseless running and aiming. Their immobility and even the ancient astronomical designation of their place are symbols denoting a spiritual state. To be one, no longer dispersed, follows. What is the good for such a man? For the spodios. He is himself his own good. The life that he possesses is perfect. He possesses the good in that he seeks nothing else. To take away what is other with respect to your own being is to purify yourself. in simple rapport with yourself without obstacle to your pure unity. Without anything mingled within this purity, being solely yourself in pure light, you have become a vision. Though being here, you have ascended. You have no more need for a guide. Fix your glance, you will see. With marvelous conciseness, this expresses what is to be called good in the transcendent sense, the absence of anything that can penetrate you and draw you out of yourself by a desire or impulse. Plotinus takes to define the spiritual significance of such a concept, saying that, given care, the superior man can still seek other things, inasmuch as they are indispensable not to him but to his neighbor, to the body that is joined to him, to the life of the body that is not his life. Knowing what the body needs, he gives it, but these things in no way intrude upon his life. Evil is the sense of need in the spirit, that of every life incapable of governing itself that stumbles around, desiring, striving to complete itself by obtaining something or other. As long as this need exists, as long as there is this inner and radical insufficiency, the good is not there. It is nothing that can be named. It is an experience that only an act of the spirit on the spirit can determine, separating itself from the idea of any other, reuniting with itself alone. Then there arises a state of certainty and plentitude in which, once given, one asks for no more, finding all speech, all speculation, all agitation useless, while one knows of nothing more that could cause a change in one's inmost soul. Plotinus rightly says that this being which totally possesses its own life possesses perpetuity. Being solely I, nothing could be added to it either in the past or the future. The state of being is in the present being. Every being is an act and is act. Pleasure is the act of life. Souls can be happy even in this universe. If they are not, then blame them, not the universe. They have surrendered in this battle, where the reward crowns virtue. Plotinus again specifies the meaning of being. It is to be present, to be in action. He speaks of that sleepless intellectual nature, a strictly traditional expression. We know of the terms the awakened, the ever-wakeful, and the symbolism of sleep, which besides may be more than symbolism, referring to the continuity of a present being that undergoes no alteration even in that change of state which habitually corresponds to sleep. Being, then, is being awake, the experience of the whole being gathered in an intellectual clarity and the simplicity of an act. That is the experience of being. To abandon oneself, to fail, that is the secret of non-being. Fatigue in the inner unity which slows and disperses. The inner energy that ceases to dominate every part, so that as it crumbles, a mess of tendencies, instincts, and irrational sensations arise. This is the degradation of the spirit, manifesting in ever more deviant and senseless natures, to the limiting point of dissolution that is expressed in matter. Plotinus asserts that it is incorrect to say that matter is. The being of matter is non-being. Its indefinite divisibility indicates the fall from unity that it represents. Its inertia, being heavy, resistant, and blunt, is the same as applies to a person who is fainting, cannot hold himself upright, and collapses. It is of no importance that physical knowledge has its own and different truth. Corporeal being is the non-being of the spiritual. As the present state of culmination, being is identical with good. Thus, matter and evil are identical in their turn, and there is no other evil besides matter. Here, we must abandon current opinions. The evil of man has no place in reality, hence none in a metaphysical vision, which is always a vision according to reality. Metaphysicality, the good and bad, do not exist, but rather that which is real and that which is not, and the degree of reality, understood in the spiritual sense already explained as being, measures the degree of virtue. In the view of ancient classical man, only the state of privation of being was evil. Fatigue, abandonment, the sleep of the inner strength, which is at its limit, as we have said, determines matter. Therefore, neither evil nor matter are principles in themselves. They are derivative states due degradation and dissolution. Plotinus expresses himself exactly too in these terms. It is by failure of the good that the darkness is seen and that one lies in darkness, and evil for the soul is this failure that generates darkness. Such is the first evil. The darkness is something that proceeds from it, and the principle of evil does not reside in matter, but before matter, in the cessation of action, which gave matter its origin. Plotinus adds, pleasure is the act of life. It is the view already affirmed by another great mind of the ancient world, by Aristotle, who had taught that every activity is happy inasmuch as it is perfect. Such are happiness and pleasure in the form of purity and liberty, those things that spring from the act that is perfected and which thereby realizes the one, being the good, not those passive things, seized by means of the turbid satisfaction of desires, needs, instincts. Once again, we are led to the non-human point of view of reality. Even in the case of happiness, the degree of being is the secret and the measure. Consequently, Plotinus affirms that souls can be happy even in this universe, thereby bringing to light an important aspect of the pagan concept of existence. If virtue as dominating spiritual actuality implies power, one may understand how the good is no more to be separated from happiness than glory from victory. Whoever is defeated by an external or internal bond is not good, and it would be unjust for such a being to be happy. But it is only the being that passes judgment on itself, not the world. Obviously, things are different for those who reduce virtue to a simple moral disposition, like the Christians do. It's all very well to say, my kingdom is not of this world, and wait for God to give happiness in the beyond as a reward to the just who, lacking power or interest, have suffered injustice in this life and borne it with humility and resignation. Needless to mention the hypocrisy of disavowing pleasures in this life only for later wanting to indulge in them in the after. The truth of the warrior and hero of the ancient classical world was otherwise. If evil and all its materializations in onslaughts and limitations by lower forces and bodily things has its root in a state of degradation of the good, it is inconceivable and logically contradictory that it should persist as the principle of unhappiness and bondage in regard to him who has destroyed that root, having become good. If the good exists, then evil, suffering, passion, servitude cannot exist. Rather, they mean that virtue is still imperfect, being still incomplete, purity and unity still tainted. Some lack arms, but he who has arms should fight. No god is going to fight for the unarmed. The law decrees that victory in war goes to the brave, not to those who pray. That cowards should be ruled by the wicked, that is just. Here is a fresh affirmation of the virile spirit of the pagan tradition, a new contrast with the mystical religious attitude, and a disdain for those who deprecate the injustice of earthly things and, instead of blaming their own cowardice or accepting their impotence, blame their all or hope that a providence will take care of them. No god is going to fight for the unarmed. This is the anti-Christian cornerstone of every warrior morality. And it relates to the concepts explained above concerning the identity from the metaphysical point of view of reality, spirituality, and virtue. The coward cannot be good. Good implies a heroic soul, and the perfection of the hero is the triumph. To ask a god for victory would be like asking him for virtue, whereas victory is the body in which the very perfection of virtue is realized. Fabius' soldiers, when they set out, did not vow to win or die, but vowed to fight and to return as victors. And so they did. The spirit of Rome reflects the same wisdom. From fear, totally suppressed, The soul has nothing to dread. He who fears anything has not attained the perfection of virtue. He is a half thing. He will be a half thing. Impressions do not present themselves to the superior man, to the spodios, as they do to others. They do not reach the inner being, whether they are other things, pains and losses, by his own or others. That would be feebleness of the soul. If suffering is too much, so be it. The light in him remains, like the lamp of a lighthouse in the turmoil of wind and tempest. Master of himself, even in this state, he will decide what is to be done. The spodios would not be such if a daimon were acting within him. In him, it is the sovereign mind that acts. Plotinus admits that the superior man may sometimes have involuntarily and unreflective fears, but more as emotions that are not part of him and in which his spirit is not present. Returning to himself, he will expel them, like a child who is subdued merely by the power of someone who stares at him. As for suffering, he can, at most, cause the separation of a part of himself, not yet exempt from passion. The higher principle is never overwhelmed. He will decide what is to be done. Should the case arise, he can also quit the game. We should not forget that according to Plotinus, the spodios is his own daimon, and lives somewhat like an actor playing a freely chosen role. Against agnostic or Christians, Plotinus retorts dryly, why find fault with a world you have chosen and can quit if you dislike it? Like the Norse, in man, one can define exactly the principle of being, made from pure intellectuality. It is the Olympian mind, with respect to which the soul principle represents something peripheral. Mostly it is a depth that remains hidden and latent, but then it is not the I, but a daimon that acts in every deed. Plotinus says precisely that all that happens without deliberation unites a daimon with a god. Now we will see how he describes the opposite condition. There, the reason for being does not exist as a reason, but as being. Better said, the two things are one. Each should be itself. Our thoughts and actions should be our own. The actions of every being should belong to it, be they good or bad. When the soul has pure and impassive reason for its guide in full dominion of itself, wherever it wants to direct its energy, then alone the action can be called ours, not another's. From within the soul as a purity, as a pure, dominating and sovereign principle, not from an action that is diverted by ignorance and split by desire. Then there would be passion and not action in us. The sensations are the visions of the sleeping soul. Everything of the soul that is in the body is asleep. The true awakening is to exit from the body. To exchange existence with another body is to pass from one sleep to another, from one bed to another. Truly awakening is to abandon the world of bodies. Since materiality is the state of unconsciousness for the spirit, any reality that appears through the material senses is sleeping reality. But we should not interpret the exit from the body and the abandonment of the world of bodies in a crude way. It is essentially a matter of an inward change, integrating oneself with the sleepless intellectual nature. And this is the true initiatic and metaphysical initiation. Plotinus aptly compares the change of bodies as passing from one bed to another. Even though it has a consistency, the doctrine of reincarnation could not be better stigmatized as it is by this pagan initiate. On the wheel of births, one form is equivalent to another with respect to the center, which is equally distant from any point on the circumference. Metaphysical realization is a fracture in the series of conditioned states, a bursting open to transcendence. One does not reach it by following the traces of those fugitive natures, those who pursue a goal that they have placed outside themselves in the world of bodies and becoming. All that one sees as a spectacle is still external. One must bring the vision within. Make yourself one with what you have to contemplate. Know that what you have to contemplate is yourself. And it is you. Like someone possessed by the god Apollo or a muse. He would see the divine light blazing within if only he had the power to contemplate this divine light in himself.